Sony announces its Project Spartacus. Nintendo's shares fall. And is Gamepass getting a family plan? Extra, hear all about it.
Hey guys, welcome to the two-tiered podcast. I'll let you decide how the tiers are ranked. My tier is the Dean of Games, and joining me is the tier twitch.tv/LMJ the Hitman, Landen.
Whoa, what's poppin'? Brand new podcast just hopped in. Alright, I'll shut up.
New podcast, who this?
Yeah, new podcast, who this? Yeah.
This is Extra, your weekly gaming news podcast covering the news leading up to Sunday, April 3rd, 2022. And if you like us, you can go to patreon.com/thebriefingroom. So, how have you been doing, Landon?
Doing pretty good, man. Been a lot more exercising and been a lot more active and trying to complete more games and not starting new ones before I finish old ones is my new...
Yeah, anymore, anytime I play a game, it's either on stream or through like a edited Let's Play on the youtube.com/XofPlays channel that this podcast also goes on. But on my Twitch, which is the Dean Slater, I just finished a randomizer of Wind Waker and started playing Tunic. And I've been playing, I'm 5 hours into Tunic and I'm loving it.
Jealous. I will be playing that at some point. I will definitely be playing that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm still on Elden Ring. I've got...
Yeah, well, let me tell you, for all the talk about it being a Zelda-like, and it definitely is. Don't get me wrong. You can definitely see the Zelda inspiration in that game. Let me tell you that no one's talking enough about another game, which it definitely, I'm convinced, takes inspiration from. Let me tell you some of these mechanics, and you can tell me what this sounds like. So, to save/set your respawn, you go to these statues with fire, and you can also upgrade your character at these statues, and you can upgrade your attack, defense, all of that. When you kill enemies, you get these gems, which go towards the upgrades. When you die, you lose a bunch of your gems. I don't think you lose all of them, but you lose a lot of them. And then you can then go to where you died and collect your ghost, which then gives you all those gems back. And the story is dished out through these papers that you find throughout the world, which end up forming like a cute little booklet like you would have seen in like the NES and, you know, all of that, with like the unique artwork inside of it. But that's how the story is dished out, is through these like papers that you find throughout the world. Does that sound familiar to you?
That does sound familiar. What are you
I'm talking about FromSoft games where if you die, you have to go back to where you died to collect your stuff. You have the statues are essentially bonfires. Yeah, I was playing it and I'm like, this is a From game. Tunic.
What game is this? Oh, Tunic. Oh, I mean, yeah, okay, I could see that for sure, especially if it has all that.
Those are the
you're talking
mechanics.
About. I haven't heard enough people really talk about that. But yeah, that's Fair enough. Yeah, that's very much Zelda and from Software.
It's it is fun. They do have two things you can do if things get a little challenging, which I did. There was a boss I had to activate one of the things for, and they have a unlimited stamina mode, which your dodges and your blocks, because each attack you have to choose whether to block or dodge, and there's specific timing on them and everything too. But that's tied to your stamina gauge. And then so the unlimited stamina allows you to roll however often, dodge roll however often you want, and block however often you want. It won't help you with health. So you still kind of have to time it right, but you don't have to worry about timing it right and letting it build back up. And then they have a no-fail mode, which your stamina will still go down as long as you don't have both activated. Obviously, you can activate both. But the stamina will still go down with no-fail mode, but you won't take damage. So there was a particular boss I had to activate no-fail, and because there's just way too much going on. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do all of this. And let me tell you, it was still pretty hard, even with me not taking damage. I kept getting stun locked because it had this attack where it just basically fired a machine gun over and over again. And I was just locked in place, just... and I could not move or anything while I was doing that attack. But
frustrating.
But again, with the no-fail mode, I didn't, it helped me, but it didn't degrade the challenge, which is interesting, because of all the arguments that have happened in the past. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's just so cute, and like I said, the art for the booklet manual thing is so, it's great.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of the booklet, and it's doesn't tell you everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's in some weird language you can't even decipher.
You're getting this.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Piece.
Also, a very From Software
yes,
thing
to do. That's how you get
For
pieces
sure.
of the story too. I mean, in the game you get a little bit of context, but for the most part, the story is in the booklet. So, anyway, we have a lot of big stories to cover, so we should probably get to that.
Big stories today. Big energy, big stories.
So PlayStation finally revealed what we've all been hearing for a while now about their PlayStation Plus rebrand. So they are keeping the PlayStation Plus name, and they are combining PlayStation Now with PlayStation Plus. It's going to release in June, and there's 3 tiers. The first tier is the Essentials tier, which will be $10 a month, $25 for 3 months, or $60 for a year.
What everybody already basically has if you're a PlayStation
and that,
Plus.
that gives you free monthly games. It gives you discounts. I'm not sure what all the discounts are going to be again. The common thread you're going to hear throughout this is they didn't really specify what that means. And then...
right, yeah, it's going to be a common
and then
thing throughout this.
You have to have the Essentials tier for online multiplayer, which is still, again, what they already had for PlayStation Plus. So the extra tier, you're getting really close to our name, PlayStation, just saying. It's for $15 a month, $40 for 3 months, or $100 for a year. And it has the benefits of the Essentials tier, plus a library of 400 downloadable PS4 and PS5 games. The games that they named are Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, and Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. They did not name the other 394 games. They said they will announce it later, and they have plans to add more games in the future. Then they have the premium tier, which will be $18 a month, or $50 for 3 months, or $120 for a year. It includes all the previous benefits, plus 340 games from PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, and streamable PlayStation 3 games. Hold on. They also will have cloud streaming for some of the PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, and PS4 games. And limited time game trials will be in this tier as well, so you can try the game before you buy. As expected, as we had heard, none of these tiers have day one releases. All right, Landon, you're the pony here. Let's hear it.
Well, so this is a whole bunch of nothing, if you ask me. For now, at least, there's really just not much here to dissect because they just didn't give us much, and it's more like feels more like a hey, we're letting them down easy by giving them announcement of nothing. Like, hey, don't expect, this is what to expect. Don't get your hopes up for the PlayStation exclusives being there on day one. Stuff like that. I mean, honestly, like it's just not much to go off of. There's can be some value there. There's for sure going to be some value there. The whole PS1, PS2, and PSP games, and the PS3 still being streamed is very big letdown. But that's a great idea, basically including what PlayStation Now is, and hopefully more titles than what PlayStation Now has. That's a great offering, but I don't understand why that's the premium. I feel like the premium would be the PS4 and PS5 titles, so I feel like it's a little jumbled. And it also should just be 2 tiers. It should just be your basic PlayStation Plus and your PlayStation Premium, and call it Platinum because they use that wording. Like the extra and the premium, there's just too much.
No.
People are not going to understand this. There's a lot to understand, and for the basic user that doesn't know anything, they're not going to understand what exactly they're getting into without having to pull out their phone. And the moment you have to do more research than you want to, you're losing people. For sure, you're losing people. And like I said, like them mentioning God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, great game. Mortal Kombat, and I mean Returnal being a PS5 game, which I'll hop on here in a little bit. But these are great titles, but they're old titles other than Miles Morales, and they're like I said, there's some offering there. I just, like I said, I'm going to keep repeating myself. There's not enough here for me to really dive into. Now, they're adding Returnal in there as like a hint that, like, hey, there will be PS5 games on here. And if having this service eventually means maybe like a year to 2 years down the road, you'll get these PlayStation exclusives that you might have missed later on, that's pretty cool. And I know people want the PlayStation exclusives like Games Pass offers, and Games Pass being a little bit more expensive, not much, just a bit more expensive, offering all of their exclusives day one. The difference being Xbox gives you Halo, Gears of War, and Forza every once in a while, and PlayStation gives you just haymaker titles like Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, both in the same year, Ratchet and Clank, phenomenal game, Demon's Souls, Miles Morales, like Returnal. I'm missing. This is just within a year's time, and all these exclusives launched. And if I had to choose between having extreme premium titles that don't come on day one on their version of Games Pass, or having Xbox's exclusives like Crossfire X and Games like Tunic and stuff end up on there as well. But I don't think Tunic's an exclusive, right? That's
I think it's
an
just
indie title that ended up on Games Pass. Yeah, so like as far as exclusives go, Xbox can't really touch the frequency and the scale of what PlayStation has to offer. And because of that, they can't offer these titles as day one on their pass. And I feel like that's a sacrifice that I think every PlayStation gamer is willing to make. Like, keep bringing me Last of Us games, keep bringing me Ghost of Tsushima, keep bringing me Ratchet and Clank. Like, like Miles Morales. There's a Wolverine game coming. Like, please keep bringing these huge AAA, if not quadruple A, premium titles. And I will take that sacrifice of not having it on their pass.
I personally don't mind them not having day one either. But I'm going to kind of go through this list that IGN had posted on their social. My thing is, they don't have anything that really separates them. Like, you mentioned that it's a little confusing, the tiers are a little confusing for customers, and I'll say, Nintendo Switch Online and Game Pass, 2 tiers, essentially. I mean, normal Game Pass, there's Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass. But those are the same tier, just different platforms. So it's not really quite the same. So you have you have 2 tiers compared to 3 tiers. PlayStation is like, it's cheaper than Game Pass, but still more expensive than Nintendo Switch Online. So it's not really winning anybody over with price. They do offer price per year, which isn't on Game Pass, but again, Nintendo Switch Online does that. We're going to get into the story later, but after this year, they might be the only subscription with no family plan. You have the monthly downloadable games, which you don't really get with Game Pass or Nintendo Switch Online. But with Game Pass, you get access to xCloud and just like you said, day one releases and EA Play and is it Ubisoft was talking about going to putting their games on the Game Pass platform. And then you have, for Nintendo Switch Online, the additional perk is you get access to premium DLC for Mario Kart 8 and Animal Crossing New Horizons, and possibly even more, because there's still going to be games that they release premium DLC for, and more than likely that'll be lumped into Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. And then all 3, you have access to older games. For Game Pass, that is a weakness because, like you said, Xbox does not have the games. But compared to Nintendo, like, they're pretty comparable. So again, we'd have to see what games. I think this new service is going to come down to what games Sony puts on the platform. All 3 have game trials available. All 3 have exclusive discounts for games. And then all 3 have cloud saves, but with Xbox, you don't need Game Pass to get cloud saves. So, whereas you do need...
And they offer quite a bit of space. I think PlayStation tried to up it to try to compete with Xbox's cloud save. I think they offer more, but yeah, the fact that you don't need to have a pass, or not pass, but a membership to be able to access that is a big
So deal. It's like, there's nothing, you go through that list, there's nothing that PlayStation Plus is doing that separates it from, there's arguments that you shouldn't compare the services, but they're all similar services, so they're going to be compared. And PlayStation Plus, right now, is not doing anything to separate itself. Again, the 400 games, that's great. That's more than Nintendo Switch Online, but what games are they going to release? Are they going to release a bunch of was it Dark Cloud? Are they going to release a bunch of games like, Dark Cloud? Or are they going to be, or are they going to have, hey, here's all of the, Sly Cooper games. Here's all of the Jak and Daxter games. Here's all, are they actually going to have just, here's everything? Because, that's the one downside to Nintendo Switch Online is they have a similar library to PlayStation, but they don't necessarily utilize it, and they kind of piecemeal the games in. Like, they just announced they're releasing 3 more games onto the NES. But it's like, that's gonna be the difference right there, is what games, and they're not saying, like you said, the games they named, okay, cool, they're older games that you can get on you can get God of War on PC, you can get Death Stranding on PC, right? You can get that on PC? Yeah.
Yes.
Returnal's still exclusive to, PS5. You've got Mortal Kombat 11. When did that come out? Like 4 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an older one for sure. It's like 2019.
And you've got Miles Morales and Marvel Spider-Man for, but you can probably pick those up at, any discount game store at this point for, cheaper. There's nothing that they have right now that screams, hey, buy me. And you mentioned PS3. People with no money, just fans with no money, have managed to figure out how to emulate the cell processor of the PS3. And they have less money than Sony, and they didn't make the goddamn console. Why? Yeah.
It is possible, right? Like, it is definitely possible. They're just not taking the resources out to do
I think that would have been the thing that would have sold it for a lot of PlayStation fans. Maybe not for people that aren't sold on PlayStation. It might not have affected anything. But those well embroiled in PlayStation, that would have been the game changer. Is, hey, you can now download PS3 games.
Yeah, I mean, my internet connection is fine. Whenever me and my roommate are both trying to download something that could be a problem, I've never really streamed too many games. But I know that if I want it to look and feel as good as possible, and if I have the option to download, I'm going to every single time. And there's plenty of, if they were to offer the ability to be able to download PS3 titles, there's so many great titles that they have that people have slept on. Now, all the people that switched from 360 to PS4, or the people that were on Xbox One that now have PS5, there's people out there, and it's very little people have PS5s, but the people that have switched over, there's titles that I know, they would love to go back to, like Infamous, a whole bunch of them are. There's plenty of Ratchet and Clank games, Little Big Planet games, Killzone games.
Yeah.
Other games.
Yeah, you're drawing. Yeah, you're stretching it a little bit with Killzone, but.
Yeah, Killzone's not that. I mean, I know friends that like those games. Yeah. That's why I mention it, but I don't like those games at all. They are making phenomenal games now. Horizon Zero Dawn by the people who made Killzone.
Yeah, no, that again, you mentioned it before. This felt like an investor announcement rather than a person announcement.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like an investor announcement for sure. Hey, this is what we're working on, and also maybe some of this is to be able to do exactly what we're doing right now. Let's see what people are going to say about when we announce this, and what do they like, what do they not like. And right now, hopefully everybody's speaking as loud as we are. The 3-tier system is not going to work. I mean, it might work. They might just go for it anyways, but I prefer just to have the 2 tiers. Have the extremely premium tier, and then the regular one.
And that's the other thing is, a lot of the people that are saying it's fine also are well embroiled into gaming culture. You and I understand the tiers just fine. But,
Yeah.
there's always the argument people make. Well, what if someone's grandma is going in to buy? Like, what would someone's grandma think of the 3 tiers? Yeah.
She wouldn't know. Yeah, like, what do you mean there's 2
Yeah.
tiers? Like, I don't know which one he
Yeah,
wants.
you need to make it very clear which one's which. And, like, even with their naming conventions, like, you've got essentials, you've got extra, and you've got premium. Like, you can kind of contextually piece what those tiers are, but it's not like, it's not like if you named them bronze, silver, and gold, People know what, bronze, silver, and gold means. No one knows what essentials, extra, or premium is. Like, there's other ways you could have done it, good, better, best. Like, there's... I'm obviously joking, but like...
Yeah.
There's... The naming conventions don't help either. Like, that's not going to tell anyone that... any regular Joe Schmo what's the best, that's there. They'd actually have to, like you said, do some research. Oh, well, this one's the most expensive, so it has to be the best. Like, there's none of that. It's just... yeah.
Do better. Well, and it's not official. Like, maybe, like, if this was an actual, like, what we wanted, like, here's all the games, here's what they're, like, the full offering, here's everything you need to know. If they would have done that, then, they wouldn't be able to backpedal at all or change things. And with this, they might be able to actually change things, because this doesn't roll out until June.
But June's not terribly far away. I mean, this is the
No, it's not.
Heads up for anyone... For anyone listening, peek behind the window. This is being recorded on the last day of March, and it's going to be released in April. So you've got, 2 months? I guess a month and a half, basically, depending on when the service releases in June. Like, you don't have a lot of,
Yeah, the infrastructure is pretty much there, and they've clearly, like, the only thing that could possibly change is maybe some pricing, and honestly, like, maybe they, like, honestly, there's not too much, you're right, there's probably not too much they could change.
But...
Excuse me.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about this. It's kind of what I was expecting, honestly, but we'll have to see how things play out, because, again... If they have a great library, that's going to be, like, if they actually put their games on there instead of, okay, we're going to have a... Yeah, what's up?
I was just going to say, what third-party support are they going to have? How often are they going to add new titles in there? Will there even be new titles? Is like a one and done? This is what they have to offer?
Yeah, are they just going to have, like, 300 Bubsies and, like, a couple good games. What's it looking like?
I mean, there's also the thing is, like whenever, I know it didn't turn out too well, but I think it's still a good reference. Back 4 Blood came out day 1 on Games Pass the same day as release, and that was a third-party game. That's not an Xbox exclusive. Xbox making deals like that is the move, right? Like, that is great enticement to go on to Games Pass. Is PlayStation going to do the same? And that's another reason why we need to see these titles. Like, they're talking about PS4 and PS5 games being on the on the extra tier. And if that's so, are we going to be able to see them be able to make deals like Games Pass is making deals? And like, you know what I mean? Like, I know they have like a lot of like a close relationship with like Square Enix and some other companies. So anytime like a Final Fantasy game comes out, it'd be great to see that. Just like, hey, you can expect every Square Enix game in the future to be on our extra tier pass, moving forward. Like make announcements like that, so when people know to buy you want to convince people to purchase a year. Like, hey, we're announcing it and we're dropping this in June, and these are the reasons why you should just straight up buy a full year. Here's a year look at what we're going to be releasing through, from now to from a year from now, and give me a reason why I need to go day 1, make that day 1 purchase of $120. I'm not even going to say the $120 because honestly, like the PlayStation to the PS3 games,
I've been a PlayStation fanboy, for a good hot minute now, like halfway through the PS3 era. Went back and I had a PS2 when I was a kid, so I played those games, for the most part. There's very few that I missed. I'm sure I've missed some good ones, but there's not really a reason for me, particularly, to get the premium. So, give me a reason to go out and spend $100 day one on that extra tier pass, that mid-tiered pass.
Yeah.
Show me what you got, as Rick and Morty would say.
Yes, show us what you got, indeed. Well, Nintendo told us what they don't got this year, and their shares are falling. On March 30th, their shares fell 6%. Prior to that, their shares had been up 25% year to date. And this fall was following news that Breath of the Wild 2 will not come out this year. Now, despite, I think everyone on this podcast was convinced it wasn't coming out this year anyway.
What some people want to say is because of Elden Ring. I think it was already in their playbook to not have it.
And that's the thing is, their stocks are going to rise again because Nintendo does actually have a pretty strong lineup throughout the year, and can't afford to delay Breath of the Wild because they still got Splatoon 3 coming out in the summer, unspecified, but in the summer. You have Xenoblade Chronicles coming out in September. And then you've got Generation 9 coming out in either November or December of Pokemon. So you've got Splatoon 3, which is not super popular in the West, but in the East does gangbusters. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is another big one, even if it's not as widely known. It's a pretty big one. Yeah,
still pretty popular.
And then you've got Pokemon, they can afford to delay it
for sure. And with Zelda sold 30-40 million copies. Breath of the Wild, has sold 30-40 million copies. They could take their sweet ass time and release this game whenever they want. But to put it in perspective, Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild took about 5.5 years, and by the time this releases, because they said spring of 2023, it'll be about 6 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing is that they're like, first of all, Breath of the Wild 2, I think it was in the art of Breath of the Wild, they had said that Breath of the Wild 2 was going to be DLC for Breath of the Wild, and then it was... and then they realized how big it was and just decided to make it its own game. And they said they were going to reuse assets to shorten development time. So it's like, well, if you're doing all that, if you already had the entire skeleton done, and you already had some of the muscle done, why is it taking so long to add in, the veins of it? Is my whole argument. But I'm also a Zelda fan that's been wanting this game to come out. It would have been... My thing is, Breath of the Wild 2 will be the 20th mainline Zelda game, and I was really wanting it to be Zelda 20 in 2020. That was my big thing. But, I just... And again, it probably is just... Hey, we have all these games already coming out. Let's go ahead and push it so that way we have something for next year. It could have been just the game is done. They're saying, oh yeah, we want to add some polish to it. But it could just be the game is done, but they just could not find where to put it in the year that wouldn't already conflict with something else.
I have a crazy theory about Nintendo and next year, and another reason why I think we all kind of thought this was going to come out next year anyways, and I think part of it is we still have Metroid Prime 4, we still have Breath of the Wild 2, I think a Mario game that's just hidden out there, one's coming, right? There's going to be one coming, and because of that, I think there's been these Switch Pro, rumors going on for a while now, and in 2017 was a while ago. It's about time for Nintendo to start releasing their new console, and if not, a new iteration of the same console. And I'm not counting about the OLED Switch. I'm saying a Switch Pro. You drop a Switch Pro with the new Zelda. You make it backwards compatible. You can play all your old Switch games. Everything carries over. But you have the new Switch Pro that plays all these same games, but better. You have Mario, Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, and you're primed for a phenomenal year.
And
that's a hot take. I mean, that could be very well just false, but you have a Switch Pro and you drop 3 banger games all in one year, and Breath of the Wild in itself would sell a console. Mario would sell a console, and Metroid Prime might be a little bit different, but if it's going to be as big as they're trying to make it a bigger title, then I think it could also stand the chance to be a bigger
one game you didn't mention, they're saying it's coming out this year, but have not given a specific time frame for when it comes out, so it could easily be pushed back. Bayonetta 3. They could easily.
Oh yeah. They have came out and said, hey, that game is done. They have been done with it for a little bit, not too long, but they've been done with it. They're just waiting on Nintendo to say, hey, you can release it now. So, that also adds fuel to my theory, I feel like. You add Bayonetta 3 as a new console game. Especially if Nintendo knew they were going to try to release this Pro a long time ago, I'm sure Bayonetta was being worked on for this new potential console a while ago.
Yeah,
Also, another hot take: new GTA comes out on the Switch Pro.
That would be interesting. Yeah,
probably not. Probably not. But just because of how big that game will be, and the Switch Pro would have to be a very strong console. It would have to rival that of the PS5 and it.
See, I'm not convinced that a Switch Pro would have 4K. I'm still not convinced about that. But I do think there is a more powerful Switch, and I think it's going to have much better processing power, because that's the one. Even Nintendo has struggled to figure out how to make games run without a little bit of lag. So I think even with them being like, hey, because their developers obviously have more, have more to say to the higher-ups than, obviously you or me. There's no way that their developers haven't been like, hey, listen, we're doing all these things, we're having, we can't have the draw distance too far away, because then characters move like slideshows. We're coming up with all these solutions to work around the power of the console. There has to be a way to up the power of the console, and I think the developers have been talking to them. So I do think the Switch Pro is coming, and I think it's going to be infinitely more powerful than the current Switch. I just don't know that they really care about 4K or 60 frames. I think they're going to work on making it so.
I could see 2K.
I could see 2K
being an option, or even 1080p with extreme fast processing, because processing is kind of the future right now. I think the 4K support is great for these new consoles, but what people are really enjoying, at least for myself, is how fast these things load. I'll take that over.
And that's the other thing.
4K any day.
Breath of the Wild, Pokemon Legends Arceus. What's another game that I played recently on the Switch? Age of Calamity. All of those games have load times. And again, outside of Age of Calamity, which it still was developed by through a partnership with Nintendo, they're all developed by Nintendo. And so they've got to be like, listen, our competitors, they all have eliminated, load times. We have to figure out the load time situation. Load times and smoother processing is what I think is going to be the selling point.
Thank you.
I don't need it to look great. I just need it to not run like dog shit.
Yeah.
So, there is something that Nintendo does with their Nintendo Switch Online that Xbox has been looking at. This comes from sources to Windows Central. These sources are saying that it's going to be similar to family plans that Nintendo Switch Online and Spotify offer. Despite no specific timetable, the claim is that it will happen this year, and that it'll support up to 5 players, but no other details of what plan will be covered or pricing. So we don't know if it's going to be exclusive to Ultimate or whether it's going to be for regular Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate, and whether or not that's going to affect how the pricing of those are affected. There's nothing like that. It's just, hey, this is coming sometime this year, and you can have up to 5 people on the account. So what would you think of a Game Pass Family Plan?
Well, I remember back in the day, the Xbox 360 offered a family plan, something similar to this. And it did not last. But it was a great service because me and about 4 buddies I think you could have up to 4 or 5, and we all just split it every single year of how much it cost, and it saved us like $30 or so on dollars year after year. So I'm all about it. Like, honestly, it's surprising. All these people want these Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft. They want more money from you, and they want more reasons for you to be on the service. So like them adding a family plan it makes sense, and the fact that Sony doesn't have one already, kind of crazy because all it does is add value and adds more people to
it. So I remember the 360 thing, but back then with the 360, each account had to have gold to play online, which with the Xbox One generation and the Series X generation, you just have to have one person with gold in order to play online. However, the Game Pass thing is adds an interesting spin, because with Game Pass, say you have 2 people with a Series S, right? In the same household. If only one person has Game Pass and they want to play online with another person, they have to have that person that's in the same household as them buy the game on their console so that they can play together online. Because Game Pass is the person that has the service, but not the person that doesn't have the service can still access it, but not if the person that has the service is already accessing it, if that makes any sense. So that adds a spin to it, where now you can have multiplayer games on Game Pass, and everyone in the household can play. So I do think I do like this idea of adding even more value to it, and like I said, now people can play together because they have the whole slogan that Xbox has right now is when everyone plays, we all win. Well, they were keeping people from playing, so now everyone can play and everyone will win. So,
yeah, no, that's a great service, and anything else that they can add like that is just for the better for everyone.
But we were talking with the one thing I'll say is, like we were talking with PlayStation Plus, adding any more tiers would be confusing for people.
That's the benefits of family.
Yeah,
family
it's not
an
extra tier.
That's just an extra.
But
it's just more options.
It'll be interesting to see how they how they market it.
Well, you're right. Now that they have 3 tiers, how do you add a family pass to something that has 3 tiers? What if one family member wants the top tier and the other family member doesn't want the top tier? They just want the basic one. That could cause complications, and that's what you get when you add so many different tiers.
So it'll be interesting to see how they market it. If they market it as, if they just, if it's going to be, okay, you can pay for Ultimate or the Ultimate Family Plan. Or if it's going to be, hey, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can have up to 5 people. Just maybe increase the price a couple dollars, but be like, hey, here's the, if you have this service, up to 5 people can utilize the service that you're already paying for, It'll be interesting to see how they do that. But all I have to say is if you liked, or even if you didn't like this podcast, make sure to do all of the things, like hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and hitting that bell on youtube.com/the XofPlays, or giving it a high rating on whatever podcast service you use so you can find like-minded people. I brought it up before, but on patreon.com/thebriefingroom, you can financially support the show and get cool rewards as well. That's all from us. Take care.